Welcome to Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Lena. Heather explores how natural healing can support your physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. She guides you on how to harness your inner power to overcome challenges, improve overall health, and strengthen your connection to your true self. Through grounding techniques, holistic remedies, and the transformative practice of energy balance, Heather offers practical insights to help you create harmony in mind, body, and spirit. So now, please welcome the host of Radiant Spirits Rising, Lena.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Radiant Spirits Rising with Lena. I am so excited to be here today talking to you guys. So we are going to be talking today about a subject that honestly I've been being told I needed to cover for several weeks now. And I've been kind of putting it off because it's a really difficult topic to discuss. And we're going to be talking about grief today. And in Winslow, we had a high schooler that died unexpectedly last week, and this theme really resonated with me all week because of that. And I kind of understood why I was supposed to talk about it probably sooner than this, but now is as good a time as any to start talking about grief and how it affects you, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to set our intention for this podcast, and then we're going to get into our discussion. So let's have everybody close their eyes for me and take a deep breath in and out. Take another deep breath in and out. Another deep breath in. Another deep breath out. And then we want to focus on our heart space area and get that lit up as you are taking those deep breaths in and out. And we are going to set the intention today of the knowledge, feeling, and knowing of being able to see the things that cause us grief and to be able to release those things that cause us grief. Downloading us with Creator's definition of grief and Creator's definition of loss. So let's do that. And with the understanding and knowing that there are several different ways to look at grief and several different ways to be able to work through our grief. So let's do that. Deep breath in and out. And then we're going to take that energy from your heart space with that intention set, and we're going to move it into your heart chakra. And then we're going to send that energy up and down through your chakras until it is covered all 7 of those chakras. And then when you've moved all that energy and you are in a nice peaceful state and ready, you can go ahead and open up your eyes. Give it just a minute. So as we're talking about this subject today, don't forget that you are able to write me comments. So talk to me about, I would love to hear about what kind of grief you are dealing with right now, right? What is the grief that you are dealing with right now? And you can also call in at 1-866-451-1451, and we can just talk on the phone and talk about it. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, today we are going to discuss grief. And the title of this, that I entitled this, From Heartache to Healing, Navigating Grief with Spirit and Self. And so when we have a loss, when we suffer a loss, and it doesn't matter what that loss is, okay? It doesn't matter whether it's a death. It doesn't matter whether it's a loss of job, whether it's a loss of a friendship. All of us suffer through a grief process. If we lose something that is important to us or something that we are comfortable with, Okay. It is one of the most deeply human experiences that we can have. But when we talk about grief and having grief, the most common thought process would be a death of someone, right? But have you ever thought about suffering from grief when you lose a version of yourself? So what do I mean by that? So when I worked at the prison, right, there was a version of myself. And when I left the prison, I lost a version of myself that I had had for 27 years. And so we had to go in and do work around losing that version of myself because that had been my persona for 27 years. Okay. So a season of life, meaning, well, okay, we'll use menopause, for example, right? Because I am doing menopause coaching now. Many times the people that are having issues with menopause, they struggle with that because they have lost a season of themselves, right? The youth of themselves, the area of themselves where they were vibrant and weren't having to fight their weight or whatever the case may be. Okay. So they may go through grief, a loss of a season of themselves or a loss of a version of themselves. So we're going to walk through what grief is and how it can affect us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And then we're also going to talk about how you can release it. We're also going to tie it in with messages from across the veil and the types of things that we might receive while we're going through this grief process. Okay. When I talk about receiving messages, it doesn't matter whether it's for a loss of a person or whether it's a lost version of yourself. You're still going to have your spirits, angel guides around you, guiding you when you ask for them to help you through this area that you're struggling with. So that's a message for today. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the role of crystals in grief. We're going to explore communication through angel numbers and some naturopathic tools, a few naturopathic tools as well. So let's get started. All right. So what is grief? Grief can be caused by anything. Okay. Ultimately, grief is caused normally by the death of something. Okay. But what I mean by that is it doesn't necessarily mean the death of an actual physical being. As I talked about earlier, it could be the end of a phase, friendship, or belief. Now, there could be, even though it says the end of a phase, many people liken the end of a phase to death, right? So ultimately, grief mostly is connected. When somebody's saying they're grieving, people believe that they have suffered a death. So when you're looking at it like that, make sure that you are really looking at it from the perspective of death could be anything. It doesn't just mean somebody who was living here in this existence gone or something living in this existence gone, such as an animal. Okay. It can be caused by the loss of a loved one, a divorce or a breakup. Okay. Miscarriage or infertility, loss of health, identity, job, or home. End of a phase, friendship, or belief. But let me say this. Grief can also be caused by trauma because when you suffer trauma, you lose something of yourself. So anytime you suffer trauma, it is highly likely and very possible that you will suffer grief from loss of whatever that is. So if you suffer trauma as a child from being abused by your parents, you're going to have grief about your childhood and the fact that you didn't have a childhood that you felt like you should have. You are going to grieve that. That trauma is going to cause you to feel like you have lost something. Like you have lost something. And literally that message just came to me. So whoever's listening to that today that needed that, come see me. Let's work on your trauma. Let's work on getting rid of that. Okay. Grief is ultimately a response to change. That's what it is. It's what we do. Okay. It could be love with nowhere to go. It could be an undercurrent of fear. So you can have grief with fear. So if you have lost your job, you're grieving because you lost your job. You're grieving because you are quote unquote a failure. Clear, cancel, delete that. But ultimately it takes a piece of you and goes. Okay. So the 5 stages of grief, growing up, going to school, you heard about these. It was originally outlined by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And originally, when I remember when I heard about these, they would always talk about how you would go through these 5 stages and you would go through them in order, right? So bunk, 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 bunk. But in actuality, these 5 stages are not linear. So you may jump up and down, you may jump around, you may hit one and then go back to that one. These stages are not all inclusive. So just because you are in a stage doesn't mean that you won't jump to a different stage and then move back up. All right. That you do not, this is not how grief works. You could be through any of these stages at this time. So the first one is denial. So the mind's buffer. This stage helps you survive the initial shock. You may feel numb, disconnected, or in disbelief. All right. So a spiritual message during the denial process might be signs from a loved one often increase here. Angel numbers, such as feathers, coins, flickering lights. You're being told that you are not alone in this process. All right. The next one is anger. So you go from denial, it's not true, it didn't happen, this isn't happening to me, to anger. And this is righteous and raw and can be directed at anyone or anything. Okay. And, little things are going to set you off. So when you are in anger, it doesn't matter what it is, something can all of a sudden just set you off and you can have just an incredibly bad day. Be angry at the world, not want to deal with people, all of that. And you know what? That is a legitimate part of grieving, of the grieving process. What I will say to you though is, and the message is, do not allow yourself to remain in that one too long. Okay. Because the longer you are in anger, the harder it is to get out of that. So you have to be able to say, you know what? I'm addressing this anger, I'm upset, and then I'm releasing it and letting it go. And then by doing that, you also are actually helping through the other phases, including denial. Because if you are actually acknowledging that you're angry because this has happened and you're releasing it and letting it go, then you're actually working through the denial process as well. All right. So that kind of helps move you forward. So when you're angry, okay, one thing you might want to do is literally just channel your anger creatively. So whether it's writing in a journal, whether it's drawing, whether it's doing something, going out into nature, just walking along a path, doing something that can help you through your healing process is great to do during this time. All right. Because it's going to help you release that anger and work through it and move forward. Bargaining. If only is the voice of bargaining. So if only I had been there. If only I had done more. If only we had gotten to the doctor sooner. Clear, cancel, delete, all of that. All right. You don't replay your moments hoping to rewrite the ending, because there is no rewriting to this ending. This ending occurred for a reason. So in the thing of the loss of a job, okay, I actually, when I left the prison, it was extremely difficult for me to do that. But it took me a while to realize that what was really happening is the universe had been telling me that I needed to leave there for a while. And I was ignoring it. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to make the change. I was scared. I was angry. I didn't want to, I was planted. I had all of these worries and fears. And it was just, I was like bargaining. No, no. Well, when you bargain, you're just creating stress on yourself. Just creating stress for yourself because you're trying to rewrite something that has already happened. And playing the what if game does not help you heal. It helps you remain stuck in the area that you are currently at. So don't play the what if game. If you catch yourself saying, if only I had done this, or, I should have done this, then stop, acknowledge it, and then release it, let it go. Because that's just a stage of grief that is literally just holding you back from moving forward. Okay, when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion about grief. I'll be back in just a minute. See you soon.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today we are discussing the topic of grief. Before the break, we were discussing the 5 different areas of grief and how it works. And we just finished talking about bargaining, and we're now headed into depression. And let me say for the record that when my mom died, I suffered from severe depression from grief for a long time, probably 14 years before I found out about energy work and was able to have myself cut energetically from her. All right. So depression is a real thing that can be caused by grief when we don't let go and move forward with the grieving process. And you can get stuck in depression. And then also depression will also pull you into bargaining. It'll pull you into anger. It'll pull you into denial. So depression is one of the ones that, in my opinion, is one of the most difficult ones that you have to work through and get out of. And so let me say for the record that with the energy work that I help you with, we can actually get you to move forward through the grieving process. And I will tell you guys, it works. I swear by it. The difference between my grieving process with my mom and my dad was like 200% different. Okay. So depression, it's just sorrow. You feel lethargic, hopeless, lost. And so when you're feeling like that, it's time to start working on releasing the grief because you don't want it holding you back. And then the last final one is acceptance. And it talks about not being okay with the loss, but learning to live with it. And really, I want to change that a little bit to be understanding that the quote unquote loss that was suffered is actually a step to help you move forward or help the person move forward. So in the example of the loss of my father, right? He was to the point to where he could not function and his kidneys were failing. And the best thing that could have happened to him was for him to go ahead and leave this existence and move forward with his growth process. So acceptance is understanding and knowing that the loss has happened, that you can remember that loss and you can look at that loss, but you don't need to relive that loss every day. And when I do work on people for grief, that is something that we work on, is understanding that you don't have to keep remembering this loss every single day. Just because you don't remember and hold on to it doesn't mean you didn't love the person, or you didn't love the job, or you didn't love the thing. It just means that you understand and are understanding that you have to move forward and that you have to release it and let it go. So ultimately, that's where you want to get, is not so much acceptance, but the understanding that where you're at now is where you're supposed to be, and where where the other incident is, whether it's the job or whatever, that's where it's supposed to be, and that everything happens for a reason. So that is kind of where we're shifting the view of grief, is really understanding and being willing to say, you know what, it's kind of a sucky situation, but I've learned, I understand the other in the loss of a person, the other person is in a good, safe place, and I'm ready to move forward. Because again, I'm going to tell you, and when it comes to the loss of a person or an animal, they don't want you to remain stuck and sad. And that is high truth, because I'm about to cry. They don't want you to remain stuck and sad. They want you to live your life and move forward. And so that's where you need to be with grief. So what happens when grief is unreleased? So whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally, consciously or not, grief has an impact on us all, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So some physical symptoms could be insomnia or fatigue, digestive issues, immune suppression, chest tightness or headaches, chronic pain or illness. Okay, and I hear migraines. So if you suffer from migraines and you have suffered a significant loss, come see me. Let's do some work. Let's work on those migraines. Okay. Emotional symptoms, depression, which we talked about, or even anxiety. Okay. Depending on what it is and depending on what has happened, depending on what the trauma is, it could cause some significant anxiety for you, which affects you emotionally, and it also affects you physically, because anxiety can cause some of those issues I just talked about physically. Irritability or numbness, isolation or avoidance, persistent guilt, regret, or shame. So when you have persistent guilt, regret, or shame, you're kind of putting your body into fight or flight. Like with anxiety, you're putting your body in fight or flight. And your body can only handle that fight or flight so much before it starts affecting it in negative ways. So we want to release that grief. We want to get it moved through. We want to work through this process. All right. Spiritual consequences, disconnection from higher self or divine guidance. So I have worked with clients that are angry at God. I have God issues, but I'm not angry at God. Okay. But people can be mad at God for taking away their job, for taking away their person, for taking away their animal, for taking away whatever. All right. And when we disconnect from our higher self or divine guidance, we're actually hurting ourselves very much spiritually. And it can also affect us emotionally and physically. Clouded intuition. We don't want our intuition clouded. Okay. If you are playing the what if game, what if I had only done this, or I should have done that? You are clouding your intuition and causing yourself to not trust it. We need to not do that. Difficulty feeling love or joy. So this is kind of where trauma and grief come in, right? So if you have been injured or hurt by someone that you loved, you will struggle with loving other people or trusting other people. And so again, this is something that you need to work on. Reduced vibrational frequency. So if you are reducing your vibrational frequency because you are not releasing this grief, you are actually not moving in the right direction. You are going backwards, not forwards. So we all want to raise our vibration, not lower our vibration. Okay. Releasing grief does not mean forgetting, guys. It doesn't mean that you have to forget what happened. What it means is honoring and transforming so that you can fully live with love, wisdom, and presence and peace. Okay. So we don't necessarily want you to forget. We want you to be able to focus on the present and now. And if you need to refer back to the information at the time you were grieving or what happened, you can do that. So when I go into soul integration sessions and we are working on trauma or we are working on grief, we will go in, we will cut energy cords, and then we go in and we take all of that happened and we put it away into an archive in the back of your memory. So then what happens is if you need information from it, then you go ahead and you just kind of think about it and think, okay, what did I need out of that? And it'll just replay like a movie until you get what you need. But we take it so you're not having to relive the same things that's causing you these issues over and over and over and over and over again. Because hanging on to the negative things that have happened does not keep you safe. It keeps you held down. It keeps you not moving forward. It lowers your vibration, but it does not keep you safe. And normally 9 times out of 10, when I work on a client, they are holding on to this for safety so that it doesn't happen again. And we have to get them to release that. We have to download your DNA with the understanding that it doesn't have to hold on to that it can replay it, but not hold on to it for safety issues. Okay. So how to release grief. So let's talk about that. The first thing I'm going to say is come see me for a coaching session or a soul integration session. Okay. Sometimes when you're grieving, you just need to have someone to assist you. I know I did. So when my mom died, I grieved for 14 years until I met Dawn Marie, my healer, and she went in and did some energy work on me and cut me. I didn't know what I was doing, right? But she did it and it worked. And then when my dad died, knowing that I would not be able to do it myself because I was not in any frame of mind to do it, I got a hold of her again and had her do the cuts and the work that needed to be done around it. And by doing that, my grieving process, like I said, with my dad has been 200% different than it was with my mom. And so I cannot impress upon everyone enough, if you've suffered from trauma, if you're suffering from grief, book your appointment, come see me, let's work on it. Let's get you through this process. Let's move you through this process. So some other things that you could do is doing a ritual. So you could light a candle, write a letter, or create a memory altar. Okay. Breathwork and meditation. So breath helps release stored energy. Sound healing. So, there is sound healing music that you can buy. You can literally just sit in a room quiet, play that music, and just literally let everything release, let everything go. You could get your own song bowls or chimes or a voice and just work through it. Journaling, especially with prompts like, what do I still need to say? Where does grief live in my body? Get rid of that, because grief is in your lower areas. So the kidneys hold regret and resentment. And so grief is held somewhere in that area, I believe, and that's why it causes digestive issues, is because you hold it down in that area. And crying. I don't care what anybody says, and I had to do healing work around this. Crying is not a weakness. Crying allows you to release built up energy that you are receiving or that you're holding on to, and allowing it to process and go someplace else. So if you feel like you need to cry, go ahead and cry. Let me say that again. If you feel like you need to cry, go ahead and cry. It is not a sign of weakness. Now, as we are going through our grief process, we may find some angel numbers or messages that are being sent to us from our team or from, if we have suffered the loss of a person, from the loss of the person, right? So for me, I see messages in a lot of different ways. Butterflies is one way I see it. Feathers is another way that I can see it. Although feathers aren't a norm for me, butterflies are more of a normal for me, but coins are the ultimate normal for me. Okay. So if I find pennies, that's either from my grandmother or my dad. If I find dimes, those are from my mom. If I find quarters, that's my mom yelling at me and telling me I need to listen or pay attention to something that is going on. So, how are you finding these messages? How are they being sent? So, let's talk about numbers. I love numbers, right? Angel numbers. So, some common numbers: 111 or 1111. You are supported in new beginnings. Your loved ones are guiding your path. Okay. Another one would be the loved ones are near you. They are sending you a message. And the message is they want you to be happy. 222, peace and balance are returning. So remember that everything happens for a reason. So the spirit wants you to trust what is happening and what has happened. Okay. If you are all of a sudden terminated from your job, you really need to turn to the number 222 and believe that something else is coming for you that's better than what you have now. 333, ascended masters are near. You are divinely protected. So many times when we suffer a loss, I've heard people say, well, God let me down. And that's not true. The universe creation source, God, is trying to get you to move in a different direction that is better for you, that is a path you're supposed to be going down. So when you are thinking about that, don't fall into the spiral of, I've been left behind, I'm alone, because you are not in this process. All right. When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion about angel numbers. See you in a minute.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today, we are discussing a topic that all of us have had or have dealt with, which is grief. When we left for the break, we were talking about angel numbers and messages from across the veil that can be sent to help you through your grieving process. Now, so let's continue with 444. Your angels are surrounding you. Stability is coming. So just like 333, 444 lets you know that you are not alone, that things are moving in a right direction, that you have angels surrounding you, that you are protected, that you have those around you to help you. So, you know what? Read those numbers, understand them. And if you're seeing different numbers, go ahead and write them down, and then go ahead and research them and see what you get. 555, change is happening. Transformation is here. So when we are suffering a loss of a job, a friendship, something like that, you may see 555 a lot. Change is happening. Transformation is here. There is a meme on Facebook that talks about how when you lose someone in your life and you don't understand why they left, God heard conversations that you didn't hear. There's more truth to that than what you know. So when somebody leaves your vibration, or a relationship that has ended, means that relationship is not causing you that. Okay, Claire, cancel that. The relationship is causing you to not move forward. So that is the message for that, for somebody. Okay. So if you are losing friends, look at where you are in your life, in your spiritual journey. Is it that they are not your same vibration, or maybe they came to just teach you a lesson or help you learn a lesson, and then they're gone to move forward? So there's many reasons why someone may come and go in your life. Change happens, and it's for transformation purposes. So if you're struggling with that, look at it from a transformation perspective. 777, spiritual awakening. Your loved one is close. So you could be having a spiritual awakening. Your loved ones, if they passed, they are having a spiritual awakening. When they cross over to the veil, they actually get a bigger picture of what has happened and what is happening than what they had when they were down here. Okay. So because of that, don't feel bad for them, because they actually are still in the transformation process, and they were able to see and feel things and know things that they didn't know down here, and have a bigger perspective and a different view. 999, completion and the beginning of a new soul cycle. We all hit many death doors when we are down here. Okay. Some of them are lessons. Some of them may be where we make a choice of whether we want to stay or whether we want to go. Every time we hit a death door that we don't take, many times we get new spirit guides or angels around us. Some of them stay the same. Some of them, we get new ones. Okay. So when we suffer a loss, that could be something that would cause a shift in your vibration, that would cause for you to have a change in your new soul cycle, and would allow for new angels, spirits, and all of that to come and be with you to help you on your next step in your next journey. Signs, I talked a little bit about this before the break. Feathers, coins, or maybe animals. Music or song lyrics. Song lyrics, I get song lyrics all the time. Dreams, I do have people come to me in dreams. So I have clients come to me and say, I have the weirdest dreams. And I'm like, you need to log those dreams, because they're trying to send you a message and you aren't listening. So if you're having weird dreams, log your dreams, and then go in and kind of really research them and figure out what it is that they're trying to tell you. Synchronicities in numbers and words, which we talked about numbers earlier. So when you notice these signs, pause, say thank you, and really think about what the message is that you're receiving. Know that your loved ones are near. So let's talk about crystals and naturopathic tools for grief. Some crystals, one would be lepidolite, calms anxiety and transitions. Smoky quartz, grounds and protects during heavy emotional work. Rose quartz, soothes the heart, opens the channel of love. Rose quartz is a great crystal. Love it. Apache tears, a gentle grief absorber. Now, Apache tears can be hard to find, but they are a great crystal. And amethyst supports spiritual connection and peace. Guys, amethyst is an all-around healer. It's an all-around crystal, so it works for just about everything. Protection, healing, you name it, you got it, right? So naturopathic supports. chamomile or lavender tea. It helps calm and emotional restoration. Frankincense or rose essential oils for heart healing and spiritual connection. Flower essence like Star of Bethlehem for shock or rescue remedy for emotional overwhelm. Okay. So I do the crystal part, but if you do like the herb part, that's some ideas for you as well. So let's talk about a guided meditation that you could do to help release your grief. So I want you to shut your eyes and think about something that you are grieving, a loss of something. And I want you to picture that, whatever that is, in your mind. So close your eyes, picture that grief, and get it out in front of you. And then I want you to give that grief a specific color and a specific shape. And take that grief and put it into whatever shape it fits in. And make it whatever color you want it to be. And then after you've pictured the shape, I want you to reach out and put it in your hand and hold it. And I want you to acknowledge it. I want you to thank it for showing you and allowing you the opportunity to learn from it. And then I want you to picture a stream of healing energy off to your left or your right that opens up. And I want you to take that shape with that grief, and I want you to put it into that light and watch it flow away. And then where that grief was, I want you to bring in peace and reconnection into the area that you brought it, that you took that grief from. Okay, then take a deep breath in and out and open your eyes. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish our discussion about grief. See you in a minute.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Radiant Spirits Rising with Heather Lena. Today we've been talking about grief, the heartache to healing, navigating grief with spirit and self. Next slide. And our affirmation of the week is, today I choose to ask for help when needed. And I really feel like this card is a great card because we all need help sometimes, but we have been taught that asking for help is actually not good, that we need to learn to do it by ourselves. But in actuality, that's not what we should be doing. So, you know what? Start asking for help when you need it. Let's start working through your grief process. Next slide. We're on the service spotlight slide. So I'm going to talk again about soul integration sessions, the trauma healing. Now, this session focuses on trauma that the client has had in their lives to release it and provide comfort. It works on fear, anxiety, stress, grief, regret, and resentment. Anything that could link you to that fear or that regret or resentment, it works on it. Okay. I am also offering grief coaching now. So let's start working on a better you. Let's start working on a healing you. Let's start transforming you. Okay. Next slide. So our weekly special is 10% off 1 hour soul integration sessions using code SOUL10 at checkout. This is a 1 hour session. It is normally $150. It will take 10% off when you use the code. The appointment does need to be booked in May, and it does require a non-refundable deposit at the time. So to do this, you can go to heatherlena.com and type, when you ask for the promo code, type in SOUL10, all one word, capital SOUL 10, all one word, to get that 10% off. Let's start working. All right. Have you guys gotten my free ebook yet? If not, you're missing out because I have a lot of people that have already gotten it. Go to heatherlena.com/ebook in order to get it. Or you can scan the QR code that is now on the screen. It is a $25 value. My ebook, Awaken Your Light, a holistic guide to healing, empowerment, and self-discovery. Guys, it's a great read. Go ahead and get it. Next slide. Are you watching on my YouTube channel? If not, you should be. Go to youtube.com/@healingwithheatherlena/streams in order to watch it live on my YouTube page every week. And if you've missed a podcast, all of the podcasts are on there. You can go back and watch any of the podcast episodes that you've missed. Next slide. To contact me about the podcast, you can email me at healingwithheatherlena@gmail.com. Any other inquiries, heatherlena.com or contact@heatherlena.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube at Healing with Heather Lena. Next slide. So a couple of thoughts as we end our podcast today. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering with more peace than pain. And also, grief is not a detour. It's a sacred part of your journey back to yourself. And honestly, that is a true fact. So, you know what? Book your sessions with me. Let's start your sacred journey back to healing and back to yourself through whatever grief that you are currently dealing with. And with that, that's the end of the podcast for today. I will see you guys back next week on Radiant Spirits Rising. See you then.
This has been Radiant Spirits Rising with your host, Heather Lena. Tune in each week as we step into the world of natural healing and discover the radiant spirit within you. Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios. Start your journey toward balance and renewal.